Okay, what's going on, everybody? My name is Mang. Welcome back to Solo Roll Mangging. So, we've been looking at Shadow of the Weird Wizard a bit. I think it's overall a really nice, fun system. Pretty, heroic fantasy. Takes a lot of the stuff that we like from Shadow of the Demon Lord, which was sort of intended to be an alternative to 5th edition D&D. And I believe the author of these games did work on the 5th edition alpha test way back, and then went off to make his own game. And Demon Lord is a damn fine system. Still not much wrong with it. And Weird Wizard, not intended to be a Demon Lord 2.0, but it is in various ways Demon Lord 2.0. But it does change the game a bit to be more heroic fantasy, whereas Demon Lord is a bit grim dark. So, depending on your tastes, you could go one way or the other. And so far, we've looked at Weird Wizard through the lens of some various old school modules. We did Sailors on the Starless Sea and Shadow of the Beakmen, both written for DCC. And then I actually did go ahead and try out a 5th edition module, The Secrets of the Skyhorn Lighthouse. And I recorded one video, and it went fairly well, if not a little easy with the way I balanced it. And then I did record a second video for that, but I lost the recording. And at that point I was like, well, kind of pointless to go on to the third video of 3 and finish it without having the whole middle section. So, screw it. In lieu of that, we're going to move on, and we've had a very good look at all the combat applications. You're not going to end up seeing it, but for the D&D module, I did end up trying a grid instead. And overall, grid, when playing solo online, is kind of handy. But in person at a table, still probably prefer Theater of the Mind. For this, if we get into combat, we might try doing some zone-based combat, because that is one of the options offered in the GM book, with some kind of a half a page at least dedicated to how to do zone-based combat. So we may give that a look. But mostly we've been looking at combat, and now I want to take a better look at non-combat potential. And so the best way for me to do that is to not run a pre-written module. The best way for me to do that is just run a sandbox, the way I first started doing solo RPGs, and just go with the flow, come up with things as we go, and just see how it is. So we're mainly going to be looking at utility spells and utility paths, not combat-related stuff, although, of course, that's going to be in there. And I'm going to be trying to avoid as many combats as I can, and just trying to stretch the potential. We're going to start at level 1, of course, so there's not going to be a great amount of options available to us, but we'll see how it goes. So, a few things. We're going to go with 2 characters instead of 1, just to give us more options and to make it a little bit more interesting. So, we're going to make them now from scratch, which is going to take a while. Just FYI. Making characters from scratch, not super quick in Weird Wizard, much like it's not super quick in 5th edition D&D. There's plenty of numbers and things like that. You know, there's other systems if you want super quick character generation, like Shadow Dark or something. So there's that. We're gonna go probably, I'm thinking, a rogue and a mage. Initially I thought maybe priest and mage, or I could do 2 mages, to be honest. I mean, there's enough variety there, right there. But we're gonna go rogue and mage, and they're kind of gonna be a little bit ne'er-do-wells. They want fame and fortune. Mostly fortune, and they don't have too many scruples about how they get it. So we have Truco and Balance. Yeah, I don't know. I just come up with names, man. Secondly, it helps a lot when you're doing this to have a map. And I decided, you know what, I'm going to go a different approach this time. And I just grabbed somebody else's Hexcrawl map. Hexcrawls are a great way to run at least, you know, a smaller campaign. So there you can see on the left side of the screen, that is a sample Hexcrawl map. So right in the middle, number 6 on the label there, that is where you start. That's your home village. You're usually going to start there. You could change it to be a bigger city if you want or something like that. But usually, you know, a lot of old school stuff just starts in a village. And then you just plop a bunch of shit around. And so there's other villages, there's towns, there's even there's a city. There's various monster nests and dungeon locations and holy shrines, all sorts of stuff. And you can label this as much or as little as you want and kind of extrapolate as you go. You can give your players the map if you want. It kind of is nice if you give the players a map that's just blank and it just has like their home village in the center, and then they can fill it in as they go. But even if you don't give them the map, you know, you just tell them, like, you'd probably lay out that it is a hex-based system. You know, each one of these hex, I believe, is 6 miles across. So, you know, it's an old school way of thinking, of doing adventure design, campaign design, but I think it's pretty cool. So we'll see how that goes. And that's pretty much it. So let's get started. I believe we're going to go with human for both of these, just because I want to stick to the core rulebook here, and we don't want to come up with too much alternative stuff. And obviously we're not playing in the weird wizard setting. I don't think the only time I've ever played like in a game's intended setting outside of Call of Cthulhu, I guess, is Numenera. Numenera was really like heavily tied to its setting in so many ways. It was hard to separate the two. So Numenera was the only one. I guess when I tried Paranoia, technically, that's even more tied to the setting. But yeah, I don't know anything about the weird wizard setting. I didn't even read it. I could, but it's like I don't really care that much about someone else's setting. I like being in control of my own setting, so then if I want to make a decision about a fact about the world, I can just do that. I don't have to like, oh, wait a minute, what did the authors say about this thing? Oh, no, let me look. It's like, fuck it, and it's my world, I decide. Done. And it's not like you can't do that in playing someone else's setting, but I feel bad if I don't look up what they've said about it because it's their setting, and then I just tend to not run their setting. Anyways. So we're going to be humans. Boring old human, but humans fairly powerful here, because they do get 2 different attributes. You get a bonus of 1 each, which is pretty good, regardless of what kind of class you are or paths you take or anything. I mean, you're always going to want attributes. So they're both going to be speed 5, size 1. Pretty simple. And it starts, after Ancestry, it starts with Profession rather than your Novice path. So I guess let's roll their professions. Truco is going to have a Wilderness profession. So we'll go down to Wilderness. And he's a nomad. He belonged to a traveling people. He might have followed his herds, been performers who travel from town to town, or belong to a people displaced from your homeland. You have a quarterstaff. Okay. Just write nomad there and put in a quarterstaff, which he probably will not use. Okay, pretty simple. Balance, who's our mage, is going to have a commoner profession. Servant. You ran a small... No. Maybe you waited tables in a tavern. You could have been a scullery worker, washing pots and pans for a noble household. You might also have served as a butler, a valet, a maid, or in some other similar capacity. You have a uniform. Okay, so we'll say balance is female. So she was a maid. So she has a maid uniform for whatever good that might end up doing for us. Professions overall, pretty minor. You know, as usual, like, if you can come up with a reason that your background profession might influence a role, you know, you can make an argument to the DM and get a boon for it. But a lot of these, it's like, yeah, how often is it going to come up that the fact that she was a maid is applicable? It depends. If we do all our work inside of city, it could come up. All right, so that was our professions. Then we have equipment. So you have two options. You can take this set of equipment. You get normal clothes, a dagger, backpack, water skin, provisions, 5 torches, a tinderbox, and then one of these sets of, like, some form of armor, some form of weaponry, maybe some other stuff. But it's typically better to take the 2 gold pieces option and spend that. So let's skip ahead to our equipment. How much is normal clothing? 5 copper. Okay, well, we're probably going to want that. It seems kind of required. Alright, let's see. Various basic gear. Okay. Normal clothing. Everybody wants that. It's very nice to have. You do want a backpack, because it counts as 1 item, but can hold 8 items. So we want the backpack. And then I usually do something like that to differentiate. What else are we gonna want? Probably a bedroll. A canteen. Provisions. Torch times 5. Are we assuming that that's everything that they both want, for sure? Probably, right? I think you also get a dagger normally, which is useful. It does cost 5 copper, I believe. Yeah. But it is useful, so we'll both take a dagger. Okay, so I'm just gonna copy that over for Truco. And the total cost of that, 5 copper, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 copper total. Plus the normal clothing, which was 5. So 15 copper. Pretty cheap for all that shit. Other things that we'd want to specifically have, at least one of, rope, 20 yards, and he's going to want to have lockpicks for sure. So that's 1 silver. Okay. Is she gonna want alchemist kit? It's kind of useful, but maybe more likely just grab a healer's kit, just in case something horrible happens to us. Okay, so that's 2 silver for that, 1 silver for the lockpicks, and 5 copper for the rope. So he's at 3 silver spent. Yep. And she's at 3.5. Okay. I mean, there's so many things that you could want and take. Like a garrote. You could buy a garrote. It seems like the sort of thing some ne'er-do-wells will have. So he'll buy a garrote, which will cost another 5 copper. So he's at 3.5. They're both at 3.5 spent. All right, let's look at weaponry then. Weaponry and armor. You know, he's going to want to be flexible. He's going to want to be melee if necessary, and ranged if necessary. We don't know his stats yet. We could go more strength rogue, though. The problem is agility obviously is stealth, and you want to have a good agility. But we could balance him out reasonably well and just make him a little dumb. So he could probably use anything. He's got dagger offhand. That's as good as anything. I mean, the hatchet does have brutal, which is not a bad thing. Short sword has piercing, which, if you get a crit, the target becomes weakened until the end of your next turn, which is not bad at all. But brutal's kind of appealing, and I like hatchets. Because we stand Gene Tannen here on this channel. Always a fan of a good hatchet. So I'm going to buy the hatchet. So he's at 4 silver spent. So then he's going to need a main hand. So we have 16 silver left, which is quite a bit, but he's going to want some decent armor. Main hand. Could also take the battle axe to have 2 brutal weapons. All of these are slow except for the rapier. I mean, if you're not planning to two-hand the longsword, you're better off just taking a sword. Funnily enough, it's 1/5 the cost, doesn't have any requirement, and also has the slashing trait, which is the only thing you care about. The only benefit the longsword has is that it's versatile and you can two-hand it if you want for an extra d6. But yeah, I think we probably lean towards the sword, really. Could take the saber, which has nimble if you want to use agility. It's really your agility choice. It has disarming, which you ignore the bane imposed on your roll when you use this weapon to disarm. But how often are people disarming shit? So we're just gonna go with the sword. Okay, so that's 2 silver. I think he's at 6 spent. So then we want a ranged weapon. Could take the crossbow pistol. Which is you know, it's an offhand weapon, I guess. I don't know. What is the strong benefit there of using it? I think we'd probably rather just have a bow. Or spring all the way for a short bow. The benefit of the short bow over the bow, you have to have agility 12 to use it, but it doesn't have the large tag. Large means you automatically fail any attack if you are mounted or squeezing, which is pretty situational. You could also go for the crossbow, even though it's so much more expensive. Only does 2d6, but it has brutal, so you reroll the ones. But honestly, I think a bow is pretty much good enough. We're going to just grab that. So that's 7 silver spent, and then he's going to need ammo. He's going to need arrows. Huh. That's a good question. I don't... Do you have a price for arrows? Ammunition sells by the container for 1 silver pieces each, including quiver, case, or pouch. Okay, quiver with 20 arrows. Okay, so that's 8 silver spent. Now he just needs to buy armor. We don't want medium. So you're probably looking at leather, which is not very great. But if you go with medium, you're going to impose a bane on any stealth check or any agility roll of any kind. Or maybe it's just stealth. Hold on. No, okay, it's just stealth. Yeah, just stealth. But that's bad enough. We want to be stealthy. So I think I have to go with leather. Ideally, you'd get superior leather, but that would cost 20 silver. That would cost all money you start with. And it would only just be a defense of 13 compared to 12. Having the shield is a big thing, but if we're going to be dual wielding, we're not using a shield. So, yeah, we're just going to go with leather armor, 12 defense. It's not great. It's not too great. Alright, and that costs 2 silver. I think I said we were at 7 or 8. One of the two. We'll just say he has 1 gold piece left. Very economical we were. I hope I did all the math right. We were almost maybe too economical. Well, we could buy a couple bombs. We'll hold on to the gold. We don't know what our quest is going to be. You know, we're not going to be sure what we're doing. We may want acid. We may want bombs. We may want to buy a dog. Who knows what. Because we can buy animals. For 1 gold, we could get a lot. We could get a dog. We could get a hunting bird. We could get 100 pets. We can't afford a horse, fortunately. But hey, that's just a little theft away. Okay, as for balance. Obviously, you know, a traditional mage is not going to use much weaponry, right? But depending on what stats we go with and things like that, I mean, you could easily have a mage start with 12 agility, you know, so you could be using a short bow if you wanted. And at level 1, it's not like you'll be that much less effective than anyone else using a short bow. Yeah, the fighter is going to have a boon on all their attacks, and the mage won't. But depending on what talents and traditions the mage picks, like if you pick up combat precognition from divination, you're easily getting a boon on all your attacks, if that's something that interests you. Is it something that interests me? Obviously, melee doesn't interest me too much, but I think it might be worth it to have the short bow, just to see where we go from there. So we're gonna go short bow. Nah, no, there's really... Fuck that, just buy the bow. And quiver with 20 arrows. In her maid uniform. Okay, she had spent like 4, I think we had decided. So now that's 5 and 6. So 14 silver left. For armor, there's nothing really stopping you. You can cast spells in whatever, because obviously later levels, everyone is fucking casting spells. So armor does not stop you from casting spells, but the heavier armor does have strength requirements. And so anything past leather, you have to have strength 11 at least. And there is the stealth bane, of course. Yeah, might also be leather, unfortunately. Not a whole lot to go about that. Okay, and then that leaves us with 14 minus 2, 12. Okay, we got 12 silver left. Again, I mean, I don't know. Kind of buy a bunch of different shit. We could buy elixirs, or we could buy bombs. There's various other equipment and tools we could buy. You know, a lot of this stuff is useful in various ways. Pints of oil, grapnel, crowbars, caltrops, blowguns, sacks. But again, until I know exactly what we're doing, I'm not gonna haul all this around and buy it all. So we'll just go with 1 gold piece, 2 silver piece. Okay. It's fine. It's fine. Okay, that was all our equipment. Now we're going to be moving on to our appearance, if we care about such things. Maybe if I was actually playing at a table, I'd consider it, but usually I don't care too much what my character looks like, much like in video games. You can roll for your affability. But again, it's like, usually that sort of stuff, like, I just have an idea already in my head of what kind of character I want to play. You know, their affability, and sociability, religious beliefs. But I mean, you can roll for all this stuff if you're just like, I don't know, let me find out. But we're more interested in our novice paths. So, we have mage here. Our starting attribute scores, or attribute, however you want to say it. We get a decent array here, and this is just like if you want to roll randomly, or if you're just not sure, or something like that, just to give you an idea. But you can customize these to your heart's content. As long as you decrease one to increase another, you can futz around however you want. I don't even know if is there a... Oh, okay, there is a limit. You can only make that adjustment twice. Okay. So you can't start with 18 strength or something like that. There is a limit. And I think, I don't know, you might have to go. Yeah, I think if you're doing that, you have to start with this array. So these arrays already kind of do that already. So as you can see, none of these are going to give us 12 agility. So we'd have to go to this pre-written array here and then work off of that. So basically, if we're going to go with 12 agility, and let's say that we want to be somewhat interesting here, maybe suboptimal, we're going to have to sacrifice either intellect or will. And I think we're going to sacrifice will a bit. So I think intellect's going to end up at 13, strength 9, will 9, agility 12. Sort of an odd mage, but that's the game. Yeah, you know, you can make it as odd as you want. And today we're being a little odd. So there's our array. So for traditions, we're going to be looking at stuff that either doesn't involve rolls on our side, or if they do, they're intellect rolls. We want to ditch will. Balance is a weak-willed individual, and thus she's looking towards crime. Okay. So our natural defense is 8, but our actual defense for now is 12. You really only need to know your natural defense if you're ever unarmored. And there's no section on this character sheet for it, so you'd have to write it in. Your natural defense tends to go up a little bit as you level, but not a whole lot. Our health is going to be 12. Languages, we know Arcane and Common. And we get 2 traditions, 4 novice spells. And we have the Mage Implement. Let me load up, hold on, let me just load up one of the other mages that I was playing with, so I can just copy over this Mage Implement text instead of rewriting it. Okay, Mage Implement. Alright, traditions. Two traditions, 4 novice spells total. Let's start by just rolling a random one, and we'll just go from there. 10. Dark Arts. Perfect! Everything I ever wanted. And now we have to wait 8 years for this PDF file to load. Or I could just look at the book in front of me, and you don't get to see. Alright, there can be no mistaking the evil inherent in the dark arts tradition. Each spell makes the world a bit worse. They create suffering, sickness, and sorrow. A tradition of last resort for people seeking unlimited power no matter the consequences. Perfect. This is all intended. I rolled it randomly, you saw it. Yeah, there's a lot of spells. There's a lot of spells. There's 33 traditions. Jesus. So many options. We're at G, we're at E, we're at D, E, D, Dark Arts. All right. And there's your fun image for Dark Arts. All right, so we get one of these talents for picking this. Construct Poppet. If you have a few strands of hair, a drop of blood, or a bit of nail, all from the same creature, you can perform a ritual to construct a doll in that creature's likeness. When you cast a spell that normally targets one creature, you can choose to lose 1 health and target the doll instead, provided the creature is within 100 miles of you. If you deal damage directly to the puppet, the creature it represents become vulnerable. Luck ends. If you destroy the puppet, the creature it represents makes a will roll. On a failure, it becomes stunned. Okay. I mean, that's pretty interesting. Forked tongue. Whenever you would pass off a lie as the truth in a social situation, each creature can hear you makes an intellect roll with 1 bane. On failure, they believe what you say to be true, even if presented with evidence to the contrary for 1 hour. A crit fail, 24 hours. Hex. Cursed until the end of your next turn. Pungent stench. Use this talent when you cast a dark arts spell. From your body emanates a foul odor that sickens nearby creature. For 1 minute, enemies inside a size 3 space centered on you and that move with you are strength impaired. Okay. If I was actually playing at a table, I'd absolutely take Forked Tongue. But we don't tend to do a lot of conversation when I do solo. So I think we're going to go with Construct Poppet. And that might come up. I'm just going to put page 102. I'm not going to write all that down. We get the general idea of what it does. Okay. As for novice spells, we have All-Consuming Fires of Hell. 1 creature within 15 yards, 3 castings a day, intellect roll against agility, 3d6 damage, and catches fire, luck ends. Makes rolls to end this effect with 1 bane. God damn, that's pretty solid. If your intellect roll results in a failure, either the target takes 1d6 damage, or you can choose to lose 2 health to turn the failure into a success. On a crit, you also regain the expended cast of this spell. God, that's a really great novice spell. And it's got great range, too. 15 yards. Exquisite Agony. Blah, blah, blah. It's only 1 casting. Cursed for 1 minute. When cursed in this way, whenever the target falls prone, takes damage, or loses health, it becomes weakened. Luck ends. On a failure, you regain the expended casting of the spell after 1 minute. Wow. A lot of it regains. A Flesh Blight. Blisters appear all over the target's body. 2d6 damage, become cursed for 1 minute. Well, cursed in this way, it's also weakened. If the target takes damage from an attack by a creature in its reach, a bubo on the target's body bursts to spray the attacker. The attacker makes an agility roll and on a failure becomes affected as if he would cast a spell on it. Jeez. Insidious Vexation. Dark splotches appear all over the target's body. And then Fade. You can target additional creatures with this casting the spell. Lose 4 health to target 2, 8 health to target 3. A target becomes cursed for the duration. And while cursed, each time the target gets a success on an attribute or luck roll, roll a d6 to see what happens. Ooh, either they fall prone, take 1d6 damage, 2d6, 4d6, or become confused. Or you can target another one of its allies. That's all pretty good. 1 True Love. Target's eyes turn black and then return to normal a moment later. Make an intellect roll against its will. On a success, the target sees you as one true love for 1 hour. The target is your ally until you harm it, its friends or loved one, or its property. Spell also ends if the target learns it is affected by this spell or witnesses you perform an act it would find objectionable. On a failure, the target becomes your enemy if it is not already, and henceforth makes rolls against you with 1 boon. And you can lose health to regain the casting. Finally, Recall Soul. So there's 1 dead creature within reach. It's a ritual, so 10 minutes long. Soul belonging to the target returns to its body, causing it to animate and behave in a manner appropriate to someone that knows it has died and desperately wants to live. Each creature that can see the target other than you makes a will roll. On a failure, the creature becomes frightened of the target until the spell ends. When you cast a spell and once each round on your turn, you can ask the soul 1 question. The soul answers truthfully by speaking with the target's mouth, gesturing, or writing, and uses the knowledge it had in life. Okay. Well, I guess utility-wise, out of combat, One True Love is probably the best. Definitely has uses, but it's damn hard to pass up All-Consuming Fires of Hell. That is a nice novice spell. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure. Am I going to use One True Love? It's very much non-combat, right? Because the target is your ally until you harm it, its friends or loved ones, or its property. So you're not going to cast that in combat because it'll just immediately break out of it when you hit one of its buddies. So it's definitely out of combat, you know, used to like get into a location or get something that you might need. It specifically says if it witnesses you perform an act it would find objectionable. That's fairly vague. Very much dependent on the creature itself, I suppose. But it's not going to be something like, hey, come with us and we're going to do a bunch of shit. You know, it's just, yeah. Hard to say. I think we're going to lean towards All-Consuming Fires of Hell. I know I didn't want to take much combat stuff, but most of this is combat stuff. All-Consuming Fires of Hell. I mean, how can you pass that up at novice, at level 1? Run creature within 15. Intellect versus agility. 3d6 damage and catches fire. Luck ends with 1 bane. Failure equals 1d6 or 2 health to turn fail into success. Crit equals regain casting. Pretty good, man. It's pretty damn good. Okay. We get more spells. We could take 2 spells from 2 traditions, but let's roll our other tradition just to see, as we have to wait. So maybe I shouldn't have done that. I can just bring up the table. All right. Rolling. Number 2 is Alchemy or Technomancy. Ooh, Technomancy would be pretty sweet. You know, we already did Alchemy for another character, although we didn't go too much into it. Well, let's glance at Technomancy at the very least. So novice spells, you get to make a bolt thrower appear for a minute, an electrified shield, a hermetic helmet. Geez, ball bearings. Or that burn away to cause a size 1 opening to appear in the surface. It's all pretty good, man. This is all very fun stuff, but I don't know if it matches my image of balance here. Alchemy would be definitely a bit closer, but let's go with something different. Chaos or order? Well, we gotta go with chaos, right? We're making really a dark mage here. Although she is named Balance. Maybe Order would balance out the Dark Arts. That's a good point. Alright, so Chaos has wild magic. Bunch of different wild magic effects that can occur. Which is pretty fun, I gotta say. Anarchic Blast, Chaos Sphere, Cheat Death, Flickering Form, Magical Wellspring, Warped Space. Yeah, it's all pretty fun stuff, but now that I said that, I'm leaning towards Order now. Okay. Inevitable Sword, Logic Prison, Mitigate Risk, Dampen Magic, Force Barrier, Ordered Minds. Yeah, we'll find something good here. We're gonna go with Order. Dark Arts and Order. So for talents, certain outcome, you can use a reaction when you make an attribute roll. Rather than roll a dice, you calculate the result as if you had rolled a 20. This is once per day. One dice roll per day, you can guarantee a crit on. That's pretty good. Force Missile. Basically an action, creature or object within 20 yards takes 3 damage. Yeah, it's one of those things that's pretty abusable. Not insanely abusable because it is visible. But 20 yards is pretty far. If you assume the average creature has a speed of 5. Yeah, but running, I guess, triples that. So it's unlikely you're ever going to be able to just sit there and spam something. But if you're up on a ledge and it's like really a winding distance to get to you, 3 damage also is not an absurd amount. The average difficulty 1 creature is going to have 10 health. So you're going to have to hit him 4 times to kill him. It's got some potential for abuse, I will say. Logic Armor, when you use a reaction to dodge or withstand, and cause gleaming mathematical symbols to appear all around you and on your body until the end of your next turn. Whenever you would take a variable amount of damage or lose a variable amount of health, you take or lose the minimum amount. Once per day. It's kind of weird because you activate it when you dodge, which means you have to activate it before you even know if you got hit. It's iffy. Orderly Mind, whenever you become confused, controlled, stunned, intellect impaired, or will impaired, the affliction ends. Once per day. I'm certainly leaning towards one of the first two. Certain outcome is pretty great. Yeah, alright, we'll go with that. Certain outcome. Reaction, when you would make... Can't type for shit. Roll, count, result as 20. Once per rest. Okay, then we got some spells here. Dampen Magic. Reaction whenever a creature would produce a magical effect. Causes them for 1 minute to make a will roll. And if they fail, the magical effect is lost. Yeah, it's okay. Force Barrier. 1 size 10 space within 10 yards for 1 hour, 3 castings per day. Along one side of the target space, there forms an invisible field. Nothing can pass through it. The field has health 40, but regains 1d6 health at the end of each round. Yeah, I'm not even going to read more. That is a great spell. For various shenanigans. Great spell. Demon Lord had something similar, and I remember abusing it quite a bit. One size 10 with base within 10 yards. For 1 hour, along one side of the space, there forms an invisible field. Health 40, regains 1d6 health at the end of each round. Awesome. What else we got? Inevitable Sword, 3 castings per day. For 1 minute, you form a one-handed blade from solidified magic. Blade deals 2d6 damage. When you attack with it, add 10 to the result of the roll. Critting is an extra d6. It's something that's probably, it falls off pretty hard due to damage. Unless you get bonus damage. I assume that applies there. It seems pretty nice. Just have like a sword every combat. That you just get to add 10 to your dice rolls on. It's pretty nice. It'd be even better if I could give it to somebody else. But the real issue, of course, is that it costs an action to cast. So you're wasting your first turn to essentially guarantee that you hit every other turn. That's not bad. Not really what we're looking for balance. But it also... I feel like it needs a little bit more text there, because I guess the blade doesn't have any traits. So that means that it's not a nimble, and it doesn't use your intellect or will to attack, which is kind of what you'd expect from something like this. So, she'd have to roll her strength on it, which is -1. But the +10, again, that kind of nullifies most stuff. Unless she rolls a 1 or a 2, probably hitting most things we'd fight at this level. But after level 1 or 2, it's kind of iffy. Logic Prison, 3 castings per day, 1 creature within 15. Target becomes held for the duration. You can overcome it with a success on an intellect roll. The target rolls to attack with 1 Bane, but imposes 1 Bane on rolls to attack it. Assuming that's not a typo. It's kind of meant to just sort of put a creature out of the fight. So it says the target can overcome this affliction. And so you specifically have to do the overcome action on your turn. So as an action on their turn, they'd have to make an intellect roll. But until they do that, they are held. Which means their speed drops to 0, and creatures rolling against your agility get an automatic success. So they can't move, and if they do happen to have something within their reach or range, they attack with 1 Bane. So it's mostly just like, you stay out of the fight for a minute. Okay. It's not horrific, but yeah. Mitigate risk. It's a reaction when you start your turn. If you're not confused, controlled, stunned, or unconscious, you can add or subtract 5 from the result of 1 luck roll made by a creature within 5 yards of you. Oh, okay. There's a reaction when you start your turn, and it lasts for 1 minute. Basically, once per round. You can add or subtract 5 from luck rolls. It's not bad. It would basically be at the start of one combat, and you'd be like, okay, there's going to be luck rolls in this combat for sure. Ordered Minds, 1 casting, reaction when a creature within 5 yards makes an attribute roll against any target's intellect or will. Blah, blah, blah. Each target becomes immune to and ends the frightened, intellect impaired, will impaired, confused, and stunned affliction. not super useful at level 1. Those, like, not many creatures you're gonna fight are gonna be throwing out stuns. But, yeah. Alright, I guess let's pick, Logic Prison. Rolls to attack with 1 Bane and imposes 1 Bane on attack. Okay. Then we have one other spell choice. I guess we could go with Dark Arts again. None of this super pops out at me. I guess Mitigate Risk might be good, but I could just take 1 True Love. From Dark Arts. Alright, yeah, we'll take 1 True Love. You never know, it might come up. Within 5 becomes... Oh no. Sees you... Oh no, there is a roll. It's not guaranteed. That is part of the problem. Within 5 makes... Intellect versus Will. Success equals target. Sees you as 1 True Love. For 1 hour. Until you harm it, its allies, or its property. Or if it learns that it's been affected, or if it witnesses you do something it finds objectionable. There's a lot of text here. Failure equals target becomes your enemy, rolls against you with 1 boon. After casting, can lose 2 health to regain casting. Alright, there we go. There's all our mage spells. And that's pretty much it for the mage. You just gotta fill in some of these other stuff. Leather armor. Defense of 12. Probably could have bought a shield, actually. Yeah, why wouldn't I buy a shield? A shield costs 2 silver? Yeah. So let's go down to 1 gold here. Shield. That actually puts her at 14 defense. She's got a dagger, plus 2 to hit because of her 12 agility. Damage is 1d6, offhand, light, nimble, thrown 5. She also has the bow, which is plus 2. 2d6 damage. 2 hands. It's large, light, range 20. If I recall correctly from the book. Large, light, range 20. Correct. Light, to reiterate, is that if you attack with a weapon with bonus damage, you subtract 1d6 from your bonus damage to a minimum of 1d6. Alright, that's it. Done. Oh, wait a minute. Technically, we didn't count the human aspect. We get to add +1 to 2 different attributes. So we will go with a 14 intellect, and we'll bump will up to 10. Perfect. All right, now Truco. He will not have as much to pick, because he's just going to be a lowly rogue. Until level 2, where we get to pick spells for him as well. Because why would I not pick spells? Spells are awesome. And I might pick Skullduggery again, just because we may actually get use out of them. Okay, attributes. I think we were leaning towards him as strength. Oh yeah, I think we wanted him to be 12 and 12. So that would be this line down here, 12, 12, 10, 9. And we could actually bump him straight up to 13, 13. Maybe not the best bet, but you know, we'll see. They complement one another fairly well. Okay. He's gonna have a 12 defense. He's got 14 health. He gets common in one other language. I don't know. Common and Elven. Sure. I don't even know if that's a language in this game. I have no idea. I'm certain they mentioned that somewhere. Here, Common, Archaic, Hand Signs, Kingdom, Sylvan, sometimes called Elvish. Other tongues. There's also some secret languages like Arcane and Thieves' Cant. Alright, I guess we'll go with Archaic. Maybe that'll come into play. I don't tend to do much with languages when I DM. If a player was really into it and was like, I love having all these different languages. I want to know all the languages so I can speak. Like, okay, I'll kind of cater to them a little bit. And when I used to play as like a really intellectual character, I did like having all the languages. And it did come up from time to time. But yeah, when I DM for my family, they don't really care most of the time. All right, we get Cunning, Dodge, and Trickery. And that's it. One boon. Dealing extra 1d6 on attack. Lose access in combat till start of next turn. Out of combat for 1 minute or until combat begins. Okay. That's it. That's our rogue. It's not very complicated. Not very complicated at all. Alright, I think we're ready to start, actually. We're ready to get this show on the road. So just a second. Alright. So, we are starting in a small village. Of course, nondescript village number 6279. The GM book for Weird Wizard does obviously go into the setting quite a bit. You know, the pre-written, you know, I don't know anything about creating or running my own setting, so I'm going to use someone else's setting. But that doesn't really do much for us because we're not playing there. So really, if you want more assistance in making your own setting and filling it up, you'd want to look for something more towards World Without Number. Worlds Without Number. That's a pretty good book. I do have here Heroes of Adventure. You know, I got some issues with that game, but overall I still love like this simple quest generator. I think we've come up with some very good stuff. I for whatever reason, it just kind of works. They do have tables here for generating all sorts of adventure sites, things like that, and various themes and little details, and random encounter stuff. There should be a section, I think, for coming up with yeah, here's for like hex generation, for making a hexcrawl like we have. You know, you can do all that pretty easily here. So there should be a section somewhere on, I don't know, maybe not. It's definitely in Worlds Without Number. Let's bring that up just for a second. That could be interesting. It's kind of like, we don't need much. I mean, it's a village, but if you're going to DM, don't start in generic village number 6279. I mean, your starting village, wherever you start, should have some interesting details. Should have something unique to it that separates it from every other village in the world, in the universe, blah, blah, blah. So, I've pulled up Worlds Without Number. Goes into extensively how to build your own setting. I mean, there's no pre-written setting here. This is all about making it up yourself and coming up with specific details for every aspect of it, from religion to the villages to the dungeons and terrain and blah blah blah. Even like the various nations and things like that, they might have unique traits and unique themes and various things of the societal makeup, typical skin colors in the populace. I mean, it goes into quite a bit. This is really a very solid book if you're going to be running pretty much any RPG, really. If you're going to be running a kind of sandbox campaign. This is more detail than I care for our just little solo thing. But if you're sitting down and like, I'm going to build a whole new setting for this awesome campaign, or really for like my next 20 campaigns, this is good to go all the way through and come up with some stuff. Constructing various religions, temples, malevolent cults. I mean, this is great stuff. Rural villages. Here we go. This is what we're looking for. This is what we're at. We're in a rural village. Rationale for the village's existence. Here we go. Number 9. A self-ruled home for demi-human residents. That doesn't make much sense for us to be there. That would be a little strange. So reroll. It's a safe waypost on a trade route. That makes the most sense. I don't think there's another city. No, there's only one city on our hex map. But obviously the world goes beyond this stuff. So, yeah, I think this city here, number 1 on our map. And if we assume there's another city like all the way down here in the lower right, this is sort of the safe spot on the way. For land-based trade routes. This is sort of on the coast, from what we can kind of tell, if we assume the ocean extends a little bit further there. So probably most of their trade comes from the water, from the sea, considering how dangerous this area is by and large. But there is a big road that kind of goes through, bisects this area. So this village is probably not insanely poor. They don't probably get a lot of the business from the trade route coming through. I mean, they're not... It's not a big town we're talking about here. This is literally just a spot for people to, like, rest their horses and continue on, for the most part. Alright, so there's a trade route. We have spoken with traders. Plenty of merchants pass through here. Features of the village. Here we go. Some more stuff. Who runs it? A patriarch or matriarch? A patriarch. What exactly does that mean? Patriarch of like a family, right? Okay. Yeah, okay, okay, I get it. So it's sort of been ruled by the same family. Not ruled, but kind of, yeah. It's somewhat been run by the same family for however many decades / centuries it's been here. So there's the patriarch of the family, and the rest of the family members probably get deferred treatment and things like that. They're the snooty rich kids of our rural village. Which isn't to say much, but they, you know, the smallest amount of power often goes to people's heads. So, I don't know, how about the Batraskins? The Batraskin family of our rural village, which is named, Hoopstead. I'm gonna write notes. Alright. Hoopstead. Ruled by the Batraskin family. Okay. Done. And Hoopstead is safe haven on major trade route between Carlus and Fantane. You just, I love coming up with names in fantasy settings like that. It's just, I don't know, let me just throw together some consonants, some vowels, and just, you know, see what comes out the other side. Okay. Significant locals. Obviously the family itself, as I mentioned. A noble's local reeve. I don't know if I'm feeling that one. Nah, it conflicts a little bit. Let me re-roll. 5, a charismatic priest. Okay, that can work. So we have a charismatic priest in town. Is he a good priest? Is he a malicious? Maybe he's starting up a cult. Maybe he's trying to slowly recruit for a cult. I have a very negative opinion of priests, apparently. There's a charismatic priest in town. Father Bastion. Okay. You know, it's something, it's a detail. These are details. And you tell that to your players as you start the campaign. It's like, oh, and there's a really charismatic priest in your village. Father Bastion. They think, oh, that guy, he's up to no good. He's up to something. We're gonna investigate him. We're gonna investigate him. We're gonna get to the bottom of this. And then you gotta do the whole fucking adventure based around Father Bastion, who you probably didn't think about at all, but suddenly he is the head of, he is the mastermind of this worldwide cult that started in this village. You know, things like that. That's D&D, baby. It's fun. All right, a current pressing problem. This is good. This is very good. Number 11, a curse or magical woe is vexing the people. Oh, well, now we just sealed the deal with Father Bastion, didn't we? Yeah, okay. A curse or magical woe is vexing the people. Okay. Village involvements with adventurers. Okay, so the local that's likely to interact with adventurers is the starry-eyed young local swooning for adventurers. Okay. I don't think they would interact with us, though. Like, because we're not really adventurers. This is more like if we're visiting this rural village. Honestly, I don't think we even need to roll for this yet. Interesting things the place can offer heroes. A secret treasure acquired generation ago. Okay. There's... And that you would not tell your players. Not right away, at least. Alright. There is the village of Hoopstead. That is all we need to get started. And you have multiple plot hooks, to be honest. Now, what I would like to know is if Worlds Without Number has any random table for this curse. Does it have a curse random table? Well, curse gets mentioned a lot throughout this book. Jesus. A lot of curse, a lot of curse, a lot of curse, a lot of curse. Do you have any information about any random curse traits? Cursed magical weapons. It's kind of interesting, but no. This is really a book that I should have a physical copy of, I think. Damn useful. Yeah, I mean, this is an actual game, by the way. This isn't just like a campaign creation book. There is a whole system here that I have not read at all, and I have I've played Stars Without Number a bit, and I think that's a pretty good game. But I kind of skipped over this one as an actual game, because I wasn't amazed by Stars Without Number. It's just like sci-fi games, I don't have that many. I'm not familiar with that many, so Stars Without Number was kind of unique, whereas like I have a lot of high fantasy D20 based games. Okay, let me see if I can find there's generators for everything under the sun. So here, D&D curses. Here's a D100 list, but this is like very specific to characters. I'd like to find something more generic. ChatGPT. Fuck, dude, ChatGPT can solve this no problem. I need a curse or magical woe that is afflicting a small rural village in a high fantasy D&D-esque game. Okay, so it gave me a couple options here. The verdant hunger causes crops and livestock to grow at an unnatural rate but with dire consequences. Everything produced by the village is poisonous or tainted, leading to sickness or death for those who consume it. The curse has also begun affecting the villagers, making them gradually feel insatiable hunger no matter how much they eat, pushing some to desperation and madness. That's kind of interesting. And it also gives like a background of why it started. And some adventure hooks. Dude, ChatGPT, man, it's not... If you are running some campaigns, unless you're completely opposed to all AI and all machine learning and all this sort of stuff, it's worth giving it a look, and it's kind of nice, especially for the less creative people among us. Also, Curse of the Silent Seed. Over the past few months, crops have begun to sprout in eerie silence. Do crops normally make a lot of sound? Seeds grow into bizarre, misshapen plants, ones with sickly hues, gnarled stalks, and strange spiraling patterns. Some claim the crops scream when they're harvested. Okay, now that's more interesting. That's pretty good. Animals that consume the cursed plants grow aggressive and unstable, while villagers who try to live off the produce suffer vivid nightmares, slowly losing their sense of time and reality. Okay, these are both pretty solid. What about... What about something not related to crops? The Whispering Dread. Every night as the sun sets, an eerie, disembodied whisper threads through the village, growing louder and more insistent, eventually forming coherent words that seem to target the villagers' deepest fears, regrets, and insecurities. Sleep becomes impossible, paranoia runs rampant, and tempers flare as the whispers sow discord and madness. Okay, it's not bad. We want it to be pretty minor. The very start, it'd be like almost a rumor, essentially. And it's going to continue to get worse as time goes on until it's solved. Alright, let's go with the Verdant Hunger. I think that's kind of interesting of a curse. So right now it's basically affecting like maybe one farmer. So Farmer Horace recently brought in some very large crops from his field. Those who ate it grew quite sick. But then, but since then, have had an exceptional appetite. So right now that's about the extent of it. No one is really even calling it a curse. It's just kind of like, oh yeah, a week ago he had some pretty absurdly, like he won a medal for how big his rutabaga was. But afterwards, you know, some people ate it and yeah, didn't fare too well. But then they recovered and now they've just been, you know, their appetite has never been bigger. No one's really connecting a whole lot, but it's there. Okay, that is our village, Hoopstead. And this is how you'd basically start a campaign. You'd give them the hex map, you'd tell them this basic information, and then you'd leave them to kind of either poke around in this village and investigate something. You know, maybe they really latch on, like I said, to the priest, or maybe they really latch on to this potential, you know, growths that are happening, or they just want to poke around town and see what else they can find. Or maybe they just start heading out and exploring. Or maybe they want to go straight to the big city. I mean, there's no There's no limits or restrictions in a Hexcrawl, like any good sandbox campaign. You can do anything, go anywhere, blah, blah, blah. For our two characters, you know, they're mostly interested in fame and fortune, as I said. So they're not really looking to do goodly deeds around here. They're not looking to usurp the bastard rich kids or investigate this charismatic priest or anything. They want money. They want cash, money, all the good stuff of life. So they're not likely to find much around here. They're not likely to find many jobs. Maybe the rich family of town might be able to shell out some cash for some task that needs done. You know, these two characters, we got Truco and Balance. They've been inseparable for their whole lives. You know, they grew up here in this shitty village. I don't know exactly the nature of mages in this setting. If it's like an innate thing that they have available, or if they've studied it to any degree. I would lean more towards saying that it's innate. I usually don't like the idea of anybody being able to just study magic and suddenly cast fireballs like 6 weeks later. It doesn't... okay, so you can roll on a table for your source of magic. Something happened that awakened the gift of magic within you. Something you found gave you the gift. You apprenticed under a famous wizard or attended a magical university. Then again, you might have found a magical trout who whispered terrible truths about the world, thus opening a door to great magical power. So, yeah, there's loads of different ways that you could suddenly have magical talent. So, we won't really get into it, but yeah, Balance did not go to some magical university, to say the least. The fact that she knows dark arts and stuff probably implies something a bit more insidious. So, they're probably a little bit of outcasts in this village. They probably don't have much love for the village itself. Things like that. I don't know if they'd really go up to the patriarch of the village and be like, hey, we're looking for work. Do you have anything that needs done? It seems pretty unlikely. They might try and steal from the patriarch. That we could try and do. But that's a whole other ball of worms. I'm not really ready to go into a dungeon, though, because that's, as we've seen in the past, that's mostly combat. And we're not going to be... I'm not going to be recording this for too much longer here, so we just want to get some sort of ball rolling. We just need some money. We just need some money so that we can take the money and go to a bigger town, a cooler town, and get set up there. So I guess let's do the age-old thing of looking at the local bulletin board or the equivalent, asking around at the pub if anyone has been in need of some job that they're willing to pay some amount of money to get done, or they need assistance with something. So, let's roll on our... oh god, I lost Heroes of Adventure. Does this have a quest generator? Creating adventures. Well, this would be the section, wouldn't it? Combat challenge. Yeah, I really need to read this whole section. I'm gonna fucking buy this book. I'm gonna buy a physical copy of this book so I always have it. This is good stuff. That's one of my problems is I fail to make interesting combats. Which is kind of why I liked 13th Age. Because those monsters are always interesting by themselves. You can drop them into an empty room and they're kind of interesting. Whereas a lot of games, you want to have interesting rooms. type of inhabitants, rooms of interest, hex points of interest, room layout, stocking. Yeah, we've looked at all this before when making dungeons. But I just wonder if they have, like, quest generation or hooks or something. There's a lot of just... We're getting into land ownership and stuff. Unless I skipped over it. It didn't seem like there was a quest generator. No, because now we're on magical devices. This is definitely not what we're looking for. Probably amidst all this text, there was something in here useful. Identify the purpose of the adventure, pick a primary challenge for the adventure. Yeah, not so much on just random generation of just, please give me ideas, I need a table to roll on. Yeah, okay. Various wilderness tag. I mean, this will all be good when we go to one of these, like, locations. But it doesn't seem like I have random quest generator. So, hold on. Let me bring up Heroes of Adventure again. That's why I brought it up in the first place. There it is. All right, perfect. Quest generator, D20. 16, reveal or expose. All right. Reveal or expose a returning person. It's going to be that charismatic priest, isn't it? Jesus. And this is going to turn into Midnight Mass. The theme is infested or lair. Okay, well, that's different. Complication, subject in several parts. The person's in several parts. What? That doesn't make any sense. Well, sort of. No, it doesn't make any sense. Okay, well, my first thought was that somebody came back to town from a location nearby, and it's some sort of infested location, and they've been, like, infected or something like that. It feels pretty combat heavy, though, the way that I'm thinking of it. I was basically thinking somebody, honestly, like a kid or something, was playing nearby, and he tumbled into some infested spider nest or something, you know, something like that. And he got bitten, and he managed to make it out. I don't know how. Maybe it's one of the rich kids. It's one of the rich kids, and the patriarch is desperate. And so the local alchemist or apothecary, the local apothecary, or the local witch, can make an antidote for the kid, but she needs a sample of the venom. So she needs somebody to go to this infested spider lair nearby and retrieve some of the spider venom. Well, I already came up with it all, so fuck it, I guess we're doing it. And it's from the patriarch. It's one of his precious rich kids. So he's willing to pay, he's willing to pay 2 gold. If we can save his baby boy. His baby boy! Okay. So this was like obviously like just post or word is just going around about this tragedy today, and that's thus the start of our adventuring career is us deciding to take this on, not because we give 2 fucking shits about this kid, but because we want 2 gold. Okay, so what will we want? What would we want as far as equipment or anything to help us? Yeah, there is antitoxin listed, but I think that actually is an uncommon thing. We're in a rural village, so we can't get anything uncommon or higher. We can only buy common stuff. And it makes sense. If we could just buy antitoxin, the kid wouldn't be dying, right? So there's that. We could buy bombs, but no, we can't buy any bombs. That's uncommon or higher. No bomb. Yeah, we can't buy acid or antitoxin, devil sticks, mirrors, poultices. Poultices I might be a little flexible on if there's an apothecary in town, but we don't need that shit. We kind of have a lot of things that I would care about. The only thing that might be useful is a net. If we want to actually, like, hold one of these things down, and, we don't necessarily have to kill a spider to get its venom. Even though that seems far safer to just kill it, rather than, like, hold it down with a net and hold a beaker in front of its fangs. Obviously, I'm picturing big spiders, you know. And if we're gonna go ahead and stat this out, let's look at a spider. Let's look at the giant bug section. So giant spider is difficulty 2. Definitely doable, but not in great numbers. If we wanted to copy some other stats, like a giant centipede, we could drop it down to difficulty 1. Actually, centipede makes more sense. Fuck spiders. We're going with giant centipedes. And by giant, they're size 1/4, so they're 1/4 the size of a human. Whereas the giant spiders were size 1. So these things are like 1.5 feet long, which is pretty big. They have 17 defense, mostly due to their size being kind of small. 5 health. They're pretty squishy. Obviously, ripe target for spellcasting. They attack +2, 1d6 damage, but targets have to make a strength roll with 1 boon, becoming poisoned on a failure. And poisoned, I lost my reference sheet already. I'm pretty sure it's just like a bane on everything. Okay. I think we're going to be killing, to be honest. The most important thing then is going to be sight. We want to be able to see everything. So, literally, I'm just thinking of like buying like 10 torches, lighting them all, and then just throwing them into this nest. Because we want to light that up like the broad daylight, you know? We want to see everything. The centipedes have dark vision. They're going to dwell in the dark. They thrive on the dark. They were born of the dark. We will bring the light to them. We could also buy lanterns. It's not a bad idea either, but torches are pretty cheap, and we can just throw them in and light up the whole area. So we have 5 torches on each of us, but we're gonna buy 10 extra. So we're gonna have to break this gold piece down to 9 silver, 9 copper to have torch times 10. And yeah, you're probably starting to get into carry restrictions. But if you count 5 torches as one item, which I think is how that is, technically the backpack is all one item. So then he's carrying 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 items. He can carry up to 13. So he's fine. Beyond that, I don't know. I don't like the net idea. I think it's dumb. I think it's stupid, and I'm not going to do it. So aside from that, there isn't much that we care about other than just having a flask, which is a half a copper piece. I guess we'll buy 2 flasks. So we'll go down to 8 copper, and she'll carry them. So then we can collect the venom there without dragging centipedes back to town. Okay. That's kind of about it. I assume we would have gotten some details about the nature of this lair that he tumbled into. So I'm pretty much picturing just kind of like a fairly narrow hole in the ground. Yeah, like kind of obscure. Maybe it's like under a bush or something that he kind of just stepped into on really unfortunate accident. And the centipedes, you know, come out at night to try and hunt or feast, or I don't know anything about centipedes. All right, I'm not a centipede guy. And so he stepped in during the day and woke them all up, and they venomed the shit out of him. They bit him, and he managed to scramble out quickly enough, but he's not in good shape. Now, of course, if you're an adventurer, you just become poisoned and probably become fine, like, you know, 10 seconds later when you succeed on your luck roll. But that's because you're adventurers. Normal people do not have such benefits, and for a normal person, this is potentially fatal. So that's kind of a shitty thing, and probably what we want to do is take some shovels in and start like widening the hole. And then we either widen the hole to have a safe exfiltration method. We have a good way to get out of the situation compared to just a narrow hole. Or we wake up some centipedes and they try and attack us while we're digging and disturbing their nest, which is kind of better because then we can drag them out into the light. We don't even need to fuck around with the torches. So I think that's what we're gonna do. So shovels, is that a tool? Is it a toolkit? A heavy toolkit? It better not be a fucking heavy toolkit. Toolkit is hammer, wrench, pliers, screwdrivers, owl, and other tools used by crafters. Heavy toolkit includes shovel, pick, sledge. Counts as 6 items. Okay, we don't need to go that overboard. I guarantee we're in a fucking rural village. Some people have a shovel or 2 they're willing to borrow. So let's just pretend that someone gave us a couple shovels. Alright, I think we're good then. So we set out immediately because we don't get paid shit if this kid dies before we get this done. So we're definitely setting out immediately, and well, it's daylight. It's probably not too far away from the village, maybe 20 minutes. 15 minutes. And the kid probably is like feverish right now. He's like in and out of consciousness. So he probably did not give us super great directions about where this hole exactly was. You know, oh yeah, it's behind this bush next to this tree. You know, it's like, so we're going to have to look around for this, unfortunately. Which, you know, again, if you're trying to come up with some useful spells for your starting character, things like divination, not a bad choice. Actually, I don't know if divination specifically would have any benefit, at least in novice tier, but I could have sworn there was some talent or novice spell that would allow you to kind of get pointed in the right direction here. There's a lot of spells, and I have not read through all of them. So, you know. Can't say for sure. But anyways, we're going to have to just kind of look around. And we have a vague area of where to look. And time is a factor here. I think this is where you'd set up like a clock of kind of like hour by hour or something like that. Like, we are on a time limit. And it's hard to say, because it's like, if the players are actively looking and doing everything they can to try and find this, it is quite lame to just reduce it down to dice rolls. And if they fail a bunch of dice rolls, it's like, oh, well, the kid died because you were unlucky. I know that's realistic, but it's not super interesting. So normally I would do dice rolls. And I guess normally I would do like my thing where I do kind of escalating rolls. You keep rolling d20s, and the DC kind of keeps getting lower, but so does the chance of getting a random encounter. But we're kind of pretty close to town. I don't know if I can realistically just throw out like a pack of goblins as a random encounter. So yeah, I don't know. I guess I'd maybe just do a dice roll, and then depending on the dice roll, that's how long it takes. And that does lower the amount of time that we have to shovel out the hole. So I guess there is a penalty, but it's not like you're gonna have no time and the kid dies by the time you find the hole. It just might impact some other stuff. And if we had some other means of finding the hole, or some sort of magical method, or I don't know what other really creative method you would utilize here. So I think it pretty much just comes down to a luck roll. Basically, if all your plan comes down to just like, yeah, we're searching the area, it's pretty much a luck roll. I don't think you can really track. Could I track giant centipedes with no tracking skill of any kind? Seems fairly unlikely. So I think this is just a luck roll. It's straight up d20, and we'll just see how it goes. We got a 17. Okay, so it did not take us too long to find the hole, thankfully. It matches up with the description that the kid provided. We're pretty certain that this is our issue. The hole looks big enough for someone of his size, of average size, to just kind of slip through and slip down. And we can see that it kind of does look disturbed, as if somebody was like pulling on the grass and the dirt around it to try and get out. So yeah, this looks like the spot. So we're gonna bust out our shovels, start excavating. We mostly are concerned with just widening the hole. And with two people digging, shouldn't take too long to make a sizable dent in it. Balance is not really cut out for physical activity, so it's mostly Truco doing it. She also doesn't really have any spells that's gonna affect this in any way. So I'm just gonna have them both roll strength. And for every success, we'll widen the hole by 1 yard. So right now we'll say it's, I don't even know if it's 1 yard. It's probably half a yard, and you kind of have to squeeze. So we'll just see how it goes. So Truco got a 21. He crit, so that's really good. And Balance got a 1. So she almost impaired, but there's no crit fail, so she just didn't assist much. So now it's 1.5 yards wide, this hole. Which is pretty good. We don't have to squeeze in or anything like that. We could kind of run in and out somewhat. I think it's still a little bit of a climb, but not nearly as bad as it was. And then we have to decide if the centipedes are disturbed by our activity. You know, we're shaking down dirt into the hole, and we're making a lot of noise. Balance is swearing up a storm. She's not cut out for this. She didn't ask for this. This isn't what being an adventurer is about, and blah, blah, blah. So we're going to go down and do a deterministic roll. Oh, this is what the Oracle roll. So I think it's unlikely for the centipedes to be disturbed enough to come pouring out of the hole at us. So we're going to put a negative bias on this. The question is, does our shoveling disturb the centipedes enough to emerge? And we're going to roll twice and take the lower result. A D10. Okay, so we got a 3. The answer is no. Okay, so we are going to have to go in then to their home and bother them. Now, we're going to take in like 10 torches into this thing, and we have no idea how big this hole is, or big this cavern is where they make their nest. It could be really quite small, and we throw 10 torches around, and the entire place just fills up with smoke in like 10 seconds, and we start choking. But that could also work to our detriment. I think we take the 10 torches in, we scout out how big the hole is, and if it's small enough, then fuck it. Just throw the torches down and get back out. The centipedes will come out. And then honestly, I could just put a force barrier on top of the hole and basically just smoke them out and not even smoke them out, smoke them in, and they'll suffocate and die. Won't even take that long because they only have 5 health. And suffocation is a D6 damage per round. So, that's probably best case scenario, I would say. Assuming you can then get the venom from them. But I don't know. I don't know how long it takes venom to, like, dry up. So I think it's okay. This is our best plan. If the cavern's big enough, we throw the torches in. Then we kind of just have to fight them. Because they're not likely to emerge in that case. Yeah, I have no idea how big a centipede nest is. Even for, like, normal centipedes. I could ask ChatGPT, but I can't really verify that information, so... Oh, it says here, centipedes are independent hunters and do not create nests. Well, these are D&D magical centipedes, and they don't follow your rules. But I would guess that it's not going to be super big, by and large. I hate to cheese it so easily, but it seems pretty cheesy. Dangerously cheesy. I told you, force barrier, man. You can do a lot of cheesy shit with that. Yeah. Okay. So, we light 10 torches. We're each holding 5 of them in our hands in like a big bundle, you know. I don't know if that's technically allowed by the rules, but I think it's allowed by fucking realism. I mean, it's not like you're swinging them or anything. You're just holding 5 lit torches in your hand, in a bundle. And Truco obviously going down first. And the question is, I guess, is the centipede nest a larger space than size 3? You know? Meaning 3 yards by 3 yards. I already decided that there's like 6 centipedes in there. That's how many there are. And you could fit 6 half-size creatures in a size 3 space. So, is it larger than size 3? And we're going to put a negative bias on this one as well. So, roll twice, take the lowest. We got a 10 and a 5. So it's a weak no. It's a weak no on it being larger than size 3. So we'll say it's a size 4. I suppose that's not really... Whatever. It's a size 4 space. So it's 4 yards by 4 yards. Very roughly. Obviously, it's a natural little hole in the ground. It's not going to conform to a perfect square. But that means that it's pretty cramped. If we were to draw out the grid, you know, you'd have 16 total squares on this grid. 6 of those would be taken up by these centipedes. And then there'd be 2 squares taken up by Truco and Balance. Leaving, theoretically, 8 empty squares in this space, which is not a whole lot. We wouldn't want to fight in this space. The problem with the plan, I suppose, is that centipedes can burrow through the dirt. So they wouldn't just sit here and die of smoke inhalation. They would burrow into the dirt and go elsewhere. So I think really we don't want to do the cheesy plan because it's not that cheesy. I mean, I do think it's a very good spell against a lot of types of creatures and enemies and shit. That exact sort of plan would work on a lot of things, but specifically, these centipedes could just burrow through the soil. I don't think... Did it count? Did it give them burrowing? Actually, let's go to the stat block. That will settle this once and for all. Not that players would know this. It says that they have Slippery and Strider. The Strider trait. And I'm supposed to just know what that is as I look through both rulebooks constantly, forever and ever, to find out what the Strider trait does. The Strider trait, basically eliminates the penalty from challenging terrain. So they do not have Burrow, and I think that is a... Yeah, Burrower is a trait, so they can't burrow through soil. Because it does say here that not all centipedes can burrow through soil. It depends on the type of centipede. I guess, but I feel like, I don't know. That didn't give them the burrower trait, but it did give burrower to giant beetles. Just giant beetles. That's it. That's the only giant bugs that it gave burrower to. It just says giant centipedes thrive in woodlands, but most live underground. That's it, but they can't burrow. So, alright, it is cheesy. Okay, then fuck it. I'm doing it, and you can't stop me. So we see the small nest. We see a bunch of centipedes. We throw our torches very quickly all onto the ground there. And then we run back up. Do I want to do dice rolls here? Is there a potential for this to go wrong? Giant centipedes do have speed of 8, which is pretty phenomenal. It's much faster. But, I mean, if we play this out like a combat round, if we play it out like combat, we both get down there. We both... Combat starts as soon as we're both in the area with the centipedes. We both take the initiative. We both throw our torches in a bundle on the ground, which is not even an action, really, if you're just dropping it, but we'll say we throw it. And then we move back up the tunnel. There might be a problem of movement there, I suppose. And Truco obviously is the one at risk because balance is in the back. So that means she's closer to the hole. So I guess Truco could get... He does risk a couple bites. So we're going to have a couple rolls against him. Because he doesn't quite get out of the hole in time. And if we count it as just dropping the torches, I suppose, they would have an action to run. But we'll be we're cheesing it enough as it is that I'm going to have to do a little bit of a penalty here. So, okay, 2 rolls from giant centipedes nipping at his heels as he's trying to get out of the hole. So it's a d20 plus 2 versus his 12 defense. First one, 16 is a hit. Second one, 16 is a hit. Ouch. So 2d6 damage. Only 3. It's negligible. They just graze his ankles. But it is enough for him to make... to have to roll for the centipede venom. So both is a strength roll with 1 boon. Yep. That's that. So strength roll, his is 13. So it's a 14 success, 17 success. He shrugs off the venom, he shrugs off the pain, shrugs off the damage. Next round, they both take the initiative again. Truco gets out of the hole, and Balance casts Force Barrier right on top of the hole, just as Truco gets out of there. And, I mean, even if they all, like... they can't all bite it. We widened the hole enough to be 1.5 yards, so theoretically, I guess they're size 1/4. So I guess they could all careen against the hole and start biting at the force barrier, and they would automatically hit. So it's a question of how many rounds does it take them to chew through 40 health with it regaining 1d6 health every round. I guess it's something we probably can just figure out. How long would it take for the smoke to build up for them to suffocate? Probably not long. 10 torches burning down there. I would say they have 1 round of just freedom. So we'll do 1 round where they just damage the force barrier. And then the next round they start taking damage. Okay, so the first round of them hitting the force barrier, 6d6. 19. Okay, so it's at 21 health. Then it recovers a d6. So it's at 26 health. Okay, that was their opening volley. Now they're going to do another 66. But they actually take 2d6 damage from suffocating if they did an action that round. So they're going to do another 66. But then they're going to take 2d6 damage each. So here's the other 66. 16 damage. Drops it down to 10 health. And it regains 5. So it's at 15 health. And now they each take 2d6 damage from suffocation. So the first one takes 7, dead. Second one, 5, dead. Third, 6, dead. Fourth, 6, dead. Fifth, 7, dead. Sixth, 7th, dead. All dead. Encounter over. Now, time is of the essence. And to save the kid, time is of the essence. And we don't want the smoke to really dry out their venom and everything. So we want to get it to their bodies as quickly as possible. Thankfully, they're right at the top of the hole. But we have to get rid of the force barrier. I don't think I can just dismiss it at will. I never saw anything about dismissing a spell effect whenever the fuck you want. Maybe if your DM is really nice about it, but I think that's specifically... Oh no, right here, it's an action. End a magical effect. You end 1 magical effect you created with a magical talent, spell, or object, provided you can see it. Alright, so she'll just end the force barrier. The smoke will come pouring out of there. And, it does imply, of course, that we would know instantly that they're all dead. But I think probably we would have waited another round and just seen that nothing else is moving down there. But then Truco will reach in and drag out one of these nasty giant centipede corpses. I don't know how much venom we get out of any one, but we'll probably grab a couple. And then squeeze the venom out. I don't know anything about bugs, really. I don't like bugs. But I assume you can extract the venom somewhat easily enough. I mean, I've seen people do it with snakes. And they just kind of like hold it. And it fangs drip venom. So I don't know, something like that, right? Worst comes to worst, we just haul back the corpses back to town. But I think we can get it. So there's our flasks filled with centipede venom. And we lost our 10 torches. We're not going to get those again. And we head back to town. The apothecary takes the flasks. Mixes up the antitoxin. And the patriarch thanks us profusely, and we get our 2 gold. Bada bing, bada boom, right? Cheese, done, good. We're happy with that. Yes, perfect. Yeah, so that's more of what I'm looking to test out with this system is cheesiness, utility, all that good stuff that doesn't involve us just swinging swords in combat. And you know, it's just, when I'm running a module, I just don't feel inclined, or I don't think about any of that kind of stuff. I just run it as a series of combats. Here, it's more like, okay, I'm back in my normal, like, D&D playing mode, and all my thoughts are like, how do I not get into combat? So there you go. That was our first adventure. Technically, Weird Wizard is broken up into 10 separate adventures, and you level up at the end of each one. So it's not really formatted for something like this that's just like an extremely minor quest. I heard someone else in the Discord, they say that what they do is that they say at the start of the campaign that this campaign is going to take over the course of 10 sessions. And at the end of every session, I'll ask you all if you think that this counts as one of the 10. Like, if enough happened in the session that you think this counts as one of the 10. Because you level up at the end of every adventure. And a lot of people do run it as 10 sessions, 10 adventures. That's it. And it's not like you're really even finishing up an adventure at the end of each session. It's just you level up at the end of each session. And we have done Shadow of the Demon Lord like that, and it's a very breakneck pace. I get the idea of it, especially with a system with this much customization available to you. It's very fun to just keep making new characters and go down different paths. But I tend to prefer a slower pace, even if you don't end up finishing. So obviously this, you could make an adventure and, oh, now we're level 2. But it's like, we've barely did anything in level 1. So, no, I wouldn't ever level up after that. Maybe after another similar quest, but even then, I'm not sure. But alright, so that's it for now. That was our start. There's still plenty more that I want to get to. I don't know if we have quite enough money for us to move on yet. But next time we may investigate one of these nearby locations. We have a monster nest guarded near us. And we have 2 monster nests that are guarded near us. Which either implies that they're both part of the same species, same faction. Or they could be part of the same species, different factions. Or different species, different factions. So there could be hostilities there or not. There could be a lot of potential there for us to come up with. And the fact that they're so close to town, they're within 6 miles of us, really. 6 or 10 miles or something. But the village is considered safe. So there's something going on there. We'll get to the bottom of that maybe next time. There's also some ruined caves to the south and a religious cult landmark to the southeast. So it's just a known location, a landmark belonging to a religious cult. Perhaps the charismatic priest cult. I don't know. We'll get to it next time. But fun stuff. For now, my name is Mang. This has been Shadow of the Weird Wizard. And I don't know what to call this yet, but I'll see you fine folks in the next part.